From the symbol of salvation release, that is Armored Saint, with some tribal dance. And Bob always bringing the metal tribes together with all his works out there.
It's good stuff there, man.
Yeah. What a small community the metal community is. I know I've told this story before, but when I first heard of Armored Saint, I heard about him on Metal Shop.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the show Metal Shop?
Yeah.
It used to air, I think it was on Sunday nights in the Akron, Cleveland area. Mm-hmm. And that's when I kind of heard of Armored Saint. That's when I kind of, got into them. And little did I know, many years before I was aware, or you or I were aware of Bob Nalbandian.
Sure.
What an instrumental guy that was in the early Armored Saint years.
Oh, yeah. Dude, Armored Saint back in the day, I remember seeing a video or something, and at the time I was like, oh, they're too heavy for me. I really thought they were too heavy, and I don't know why. But then I really got into them. This is such a stupid thing, but the only memory I ever have, this will be my one manly man story that I have, since I'm such a fucking faggot pussy in real life. But there was a moment in my life where I was trying to learn mechanics.
Okay.
And it was when I was in California, and I bought a pair of 280Zs from some guy. I don't know why I bought two, but I bought two at the same time, and they were like fixer-up cars.
Yeah. So were you trying to combine both of them to make one good one or something?
No, me being the dorky fag that I am, I was like that guy in the commercial that I was trying to do the his and hers for the ex-wife at the time, or the current wife at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed work, and they needed shit like tires replaced, and belts and plugs and cable, tune up shit. So I was like, this is where I'm going to learn how to do it. So on the base there at Fort Ord, they had this garage, and it was kind of like you would rent a space in the garage per hour. It was like $5 per hour or whatnot. But it came with all the tools.
Okay, so it was a fully outfitted garage, and you could rent it.
Yeah, you could rent the space, and you could go in there and, you could say, yeah, I need a, whatever, 3/8 wrench or whatever, 3/8 crescent, or it had the tire thing in there that you could change the tires, and you could buy for like 50 cents. You could buy the balances, and it had the spinner thing that you balance your tires with and all that shit. So this was my one and only forte was trying to get these fucking 280Z going, and these two 280Zs. But what I remember is the guy that ran the place, all he would listen to was Symbol of Salvation.
Okay.
So it was playing in like the garage, and there's 15 cars in 15 bays working on their cars, and it was just nonstop. No other tape ever got in. He would just play Symbol of Salvation. They'd flip it over, play the other side, and flip it over again, play the first side again. That's all he would play every time I went there. So I sort of learned who Armored Saint was, got to liking the band, and then went to Metal Mania at some point and bought it. So that was, it's weird that's one of those bands that I remember exactly where I was when I really discovered them.
Yeah, well, same with me. Like I said, I learned about them through Metal Shop.
Yep.
That was a great show. I always enjoyed that. I always liked the bumper that they always, Metal Shop.
Yep.
Metal Shop.
Metal Shop.
It was the big voice guy, and the sound of a saw cutting through like metal or something.
Metal Shop.
Exactly.
It's like Big Red doing it for us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, so that's back when radio used to be cool.
Yeah, when it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. There was great shows. I mean, obviously, I mentioned, Tim was on the phone with us talking about Rockline. That Bob Coburn did that for decades.
Right.
And that was a good show because, he'd feature a band every week and they play live in the studio and, take phone calls and things like that. Before the internet, that was as close as you could get to your favorite band. Maybe you could get through on the phone line to ask a question.
Right. Yeah.
So
when you were a kid, did you ever try to call into any shows? Or
I did. I attempted, but often, the thing is you always get that busy signal or, hey, what's your question? Or that kind of thing, and sometimes they'd get to you. Sometimes they wouldn't.
Did you ever get on? What did you get on?
I never got on to anything.
You never got on once?
Well, I got onto a talk show, but this was when I was an adult. I never got in through one of the music shows.
Right.
But I think I got through on some political commentary show when I used to drive a truck, some Detroit show.
Right.
I think I got through on the I'm trying to remember what the guy's name was, but Rich Album show.
Okay.
I think I can't remember what he was talking about. I think they were talking about trucking and regulations or something, and I got through on that.
Nice.
And got just a comment on that real quick.
Right.
But that was about it.
The only time I can really remember calling in was I called in and got on Pete Franklin on 3WE. And I asked him a boxing question, and I was probably 11 years old at the time or whatever. And he basically was like, "You stupid kid, you're not smart enough to be on the radio."
Yeah, you've told that story.
Yeah, he just fucking hung up on me. He didn't like my question, but dude, it's weird. Do you remember the first time you appeared on radio? Was it STB or was it somewhere else?
Appeared on radio. There was a radio show in San Bernardino. Well, actually, they were in Redlands.
Okay.
And it was KCAL. It was KCAL.
Okay.
And they had a morning show called Stew and Crew.
Okay.
And they were out at I can't remember what the hell it was. It was they were doing one of these weekend appearances type thing that they were doing a live broadcast from.
Right.
And so I was in the area and I swung by there and I pulled a stunt on the show.
Nice.
They were set up in a parking lot. They were like on a stage or something I can't remember exactly what the event was or what they were broadcasting or whatever. But right across the parking lot was a church and there was a wedding going on over there. And they were daring people to do different shit. And
right.
and one of the things was, well, I dare someone to go over to that wedding and ask them for a piece of wedding cake. So I did. I walked right over there. There was an outdoor thing, that was in the middle of the summer or whatever. And so I went over there and I walked up to the bride's table there and asked them for a piece of wedding cake. And
nice.
they gave it to me and I brought it back. So that was my first foray into actually appearing on radio.
Okay. Yeah. My first other than WSTB when I was a kid was it was right when I first started Music's Bottom Line. And I interviewed Dee Snider. And I interviewed Dee Snider the same day that he had come out and said he didn't want John Rocker playing his "We're Not Gonna Take It."
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
I had interviewed him that same day, and I asked him about it. So I had this piece of tape, and I remember Kenny Rhoda on WKNR.
It sounds real familiar. I mean, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, he was a sports talk guy on WKNR. And I sent him an email saying, "Hey, I've got this piece of tape, with Dee today talking about this. Do you want me? Could I come on your show?" I was a big fan of his show. And he was like, "If you've got the tape, bring it down." So I went down to WKNR and I had my tape and he listened to the tape and he brought me right in. And I ended up hanging out for 30 minutes and talking Indians baseball with him because he just didn't have any guests or anything. He was just hanging out talking about the Indians, and we played the tape, and he had, asked me some questions, and it was a good chance for me to plug Music's Bottom Line and, talk about, interviewing rock guys or whatever, which was still new to me at that point.
Right, of course.
Here. But yeah, so that was my first, other than WSTB, that was my first foray into commercial radio, was being on WKNR.
Wow, look at that. Well, like you, I know you've told your story about, pretending you were like a broadcaster, so on and so forth. Much like you, as a kid, as a very young kid,
sure.
I listened to, there was a radio station in Pittsburgh. We used to live outside of Pittsburgh. It was called Wixie.
Okay.
I think it was WIXI or something like that, Wixie Radio, and it was the local, I guess it was more pop, or maybe it was like a mixed pop rock.
Right.
And that's actually where I heard the band Chicago the first time as a kid.
Okay.
But that's where I got my first taste into wanting to be a radio broadcaster, way back when I was like maybe 6 years old, 7 years old. Just like, man, that's a cool gig.
Right.
And listening to those radio shows and stuff, even as a kid, it's like,
sure.
But of course that was a whole different, vibe back then. We're playing your stacks of wax right here on Wixie, that kind of the big voice guy, the big radio guy.
Of course, and when you were a kid, you'd sit there in your room and practice hitting I used to do that all the time with 45s. I'd practice hitting the post.
Yeah.
Because I always noticed that they would stop talking right when the music would go on.
Well, right when the vocal come in.
Yeah.
You do the talk up just before the vocal on the song kicks in.
I would. With the Chicago song, I mean, this one I want to send out to my girlfriend Beth, and just want to say I really want to tell you I'm sorry. Just go right into the words.
Yep.
Used to practice that all the time.
Well, to be a music DJ, you definitely had to have your shtick down in order to know how much time you had before. From the time that the music started to where the vocal kicked in.
Right.
Because that was a big no-no to talk over the vocal.
Right. Or come out too far in front of the vocal.
True.
Yeah. Dude, when I was at 92.3, they used to evaluate us for music, and they would just randomly pull air checks.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be like, see, you missed here by at least a second. And I'd be like, oh, shut up. Shut up.
Your talk up was too long. The vocal kicked in here, and you weren't done with your preamble.
Exactly. Meanwhile, I'd be thinking to myself, how much does this show bill? And you think I'm worried about 1 fucking second? Shut up.
Yeah. That's why I never wanted to be a music DJ. I just wanted to be a free-form DJ.
Right.
Just whatever your show was, it was, which is what we do here.
Yeah.
And that was always my thought. Even way back then, it was just like, I want a free form show. It's no rules, you got to hit the post, and you got a hard clock, and you got to do this commercial, and you got to do, Yeah,
it was, I'll tell you, when you had to hit the clock, it was really, really difficult. When we were, the first year that we were on 92.3 after MMS, we definitely had a hard clock because we were selling a lot of spots. So we definitely had to be out exactly at 20 and exactly at 40 so that you could get the 6-minute swings of spots,
mm-hmm.
6 fucking minutes, which seemed like 100 years. But man, oh man, nothing would get me more frustrated. And Matt would play music till, I don't know, like 15 after the hour. And then we'd get into talking about something, and we would just start getting into it. And he'd go, and we'll talk more about that after the break.
You're just I lost my fucking momentum.
Well, not only that, then after the break, we would play 2 more songs. So then we really lost momentum because we would we would take a 6-minute commercial break followed by at least 10 more minutes of music and then try and come back. And Matt would always go like, before that we were talking about.
It's like, well, the point is lost now. It's a moot point.
Yeah. Part of the point was the song we just played.
Yeah.
But, he was much more radio guy than I was.
Wow, he was more formal than you.
Yeah. And I was always just ready to shoot the shit and, just wherever it goes. But it was that hard. It was great that after about the first 6 months that completely loosened up. The show caught some fire and they stopped really giving a fuck what we were doing. And that was the best. Once they stopped giving all they cared about at the end was that we played our commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't care if we played 18 minutes in a row, as long as we played our commercials. That was the only thing that the station ever gave us much. I mean, I got calls every Monday about the shit I said. It just became part of the gig. Was that Monday would be a call from Kim Monroe saying, you can't say douchebag because that's against CBS regulation.
Right.
Like, okay, Kim, I didn't know that. Well, you should have read the memo. You signed it. I was like, yeah, you think I read that just because I signed it? Stop it.
Well, I knew that commercial radio was in trouble because one of the, I'm going to credit her with giving me a lot of my encouragement to pursue getting into radio and go into broadcasting school. Was a girl who was on WONE there in Akron, Erin Carmen.
Yeah.
And she did the evening show, and I used to listen to her. And, WONE was a classic rock station. But she kind of brought her own flavor to it. Not that she was wild or crazy or did anything out of the ordinary. It's that her delivery was, pretty pure.
Right.
And this was when I was, again, driving a truck. This was before I went to radio broadcasting school. And, she was on late in the evening. And so if I was coming through the area, because I crisscross back and forth between PA and Indiana and Illinois, so oftentimes I would be coming through the area while she was on, and I'd give her a ring, and, she'd chit-chat with me. It's like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? And how's life out on the road and things like that. And she used to do a lot of live remotes to different things. And if I was home over the weekend and she was out doing some weekend live remote, I'd stop out and just say, hey, how's it going? What's happening? And,
right.
And this was when I was really seriously thinking about going to broadcasting school. And, she kind of gave me a little ins and outs and insight and whatnot in the whole radio industry. She was very helpful in that regard. Sure. And I'll never forget talking to her that she was telling me about these meetings that they were having with their quote unquote radio consultants.
Oh yeah.
And these consultants would basically program the station to play certain songs at certain times. All this other stuff. It was so formulaic that it took the spontaneity out of everything.
Yeah.
And it was just so cut and dry. And she was telling me, yeah, we had our meeting with our music consultant today, and I said, yeah. And she goes, yeah, we were allowed to add Paranoid today.
Ooh.
I said, what? Now, mind you, this was like 1995.
Right, sure.
This song was already what Paranoid come out, in 70?
70.
So that song was like 25 years old.
Right.
And they were, quote unquote, allowed to add it.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you fucking kidding me?
Well, dude.
And she was excited about that.
The formulaic programming is why specialty shows took off, because the specialty shows were like against the grain.
Yeah.
That's why my little silly show on MMS and then on 92.3 was huge, because it was so against the grain of everything else that was going on in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was, all right, 13 after the hour, and guess what? It's time for some Stone Temple Pilots. We're going to get greasy now with some Vaseline. It's fucking terrible.
I know.
Just terrible. Remember, dude, we had classes about the talk-ups. about, well, this is how you properly talk something up, and you can be edgy without being dirty.
Yeah.
You can't be dirty. And like I just did there, that was an actual teaching that they told us. It's time to get slippery with some Vaseline.
Right, of course.
Pilots right here on Extreme Radio.
Yeah, of course.
Like, garbage.
Well, when I was in broadcasting school, WGAR and like a half a dozen other radio stations were based in that. I don't know what the name of the building is, but and for those of you who live in the Akron, Cleveland area, this might make sense to you. Those who live anywhere else in the world, this means nothing to you.
Okay.
But there's a set of towers, buildings. I won't call them skyscrapers because they aren't that big, but they're taller buildings.
Okay.
And they're on the west side of I-77. They're off of 480.
Okay.
And they've got like green fluorescent tubing around the rooftops. I mean, they're very noticeable at that intersection. Well, that's where WGAR and a host of other radio stations, they're all located on one floor. And when I was in broadcasting school, they took us up there to show us how a real radio station works.
Oh, this was the Clear Channel building?
I don't know what building it.
On Oak Tree Boulevard.
I don't know the name of the street or anything. It's just right off of 77 and Independence. Independence.
Yeah, that's where I was at for half of my time with MMS.
All right, well then you know.
It's that hallway. That hallway.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, so you know. So we went to the radio station, which there was like 4 or 5 radio stations all on one hallway.
Yeah.
And so we went into the WGAR studio, and the DJ who was ever working that evening was doing his show.
Right.
He basically had a what do you call those cards that people who used to cook? What do you call those?
They used to cook recipe cards.
Recipe cards. That's what I was looking for. He had a recipe card box.
Okay. Yeah.
Sitting on the console.
Yeah.
And there were recipe cards with all the scripts written on it.
Right. Oh,
and then during the break, he would have to take the next recipe card out of the box and basically read off the script.
Right.
You know, he wasn't even allowed to ad-lib shit.
No.
He had to read directly off that recipe card. And it's like, this is not fun.
No, it's just a job.
That's not even fun.
Nope. No,
so
it's not.
You come out of a song, you grab a recipe card, you read what's on the card, and you stick to the script, and then you break into the next song. That's it?
Yeah, then you push a button and Profit plays and tells you in 30 seconds to put on your headphones.
How boring. That's not fun.
No, regular radio sucks. It's awful. You know, I used to go and sit in with Rachel Steele sometimes, and she was a DJ at 92.3, and me and her got to be friendly, and boy was she hot. Oh, she was so hot, which always made it fun to me that we were friends because it was great to just go and kind of stare at her big boobs, but I would just sit in with her some because I worked. My day job was in the same building as the 92.3 studio. So every once in a while, I'd be over there, and Rachel would be like, hey, you want to sit in for a segment or two? And I'd be like, sure, you know. And then I would sit in, and I would be doing what I normally do, and she would just be giving me that finger, like, no. You know, don't do that. Don't do, you know, because I was doing what I normally do.
Right.
And, you know, and she was like the midday girl. So you couldn't really do what I did on Sundays of 10 to midnight on Tuesday at, 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, don't get too fucking crazy in here, Aiken.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get too wild.
Yeah.
But that was always funny, too, that she would always, whenever I would leave, she'd be like, and you can hear the wildness known as the metal show There's like the wildness.
Yeah, he brings his own brand of zany energy to the air.
And I was always like, okay, cool.
Just lame. So lame.
Yeah. Yeah, she works for Sirius now.
All right.
Which is good, good, but it's still the same kind of radio. It's still, play two songs and be like, yeah, that's the Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. It's Judas Priest. They've got another thing coming, and so do you, because we're going to go with a double shot now. Here's Painkiller.
Right.
Just fucking regular radio is the pits.
It is. And I'm talking, this was 95, 96 I'm talking about. So we're talking, 24 years ago, and it was that lame.
Yeah, it was so awful. It just, and what's amazing to me is, as kids, we all wanted to do that.
Well, but it wasn't so restrictive when we were kids, though.
Yeah,
because the DJs at that point, and this is when it became restrictive, is after 96.
Right.
Because of that bill that Clinton signed, not Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton signed a bill that allowed corporate entities to buy up all the radio stations.
Right, and they did.
And Clear Channel became the clear front runner of all that. But that's when everything changed. It just destroyed it. Everything became sterile and corporate and regimented, and stick to the script, and don't get too crazy. And the reason being is that these radio stations were not interested in. And they were teaching us this in broadcasting school, because they had basically gotten the curriculum. Well, we're teaching personable radio, not personality radio.
Right.
Because if you became a personality in any marketplace and your contract came up, your popularity would dictate your next contract, whether they have to pay you more money or not. If you're just a personable voice and you have no distinguishing personality about you, you're just another DJ.
Yeah, they wanted you to stay anonymous for $10 an hour.
Yeah, that's it. Seriously, that was it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, don't become a star. Don't become somebody recognizable by name, because we're going to have to pay you more money if you do that.
Yeah, it's amazing that they didn't want to, though. And again, I'll never understand it. It's like we talked about Howard Stern at the beginning of the show. There's no way was any radio station that was carrying Howard Stern losing money during that time. Yeah, but
they only had to pay a fee for carrying the show. They didn't have to pay his salary per se. They only had to pay what do you call that? A transmission fee, or whatever you want to call it.
Syndication fee.
Syndication fee. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, but someone was paying him. Somebody was paying him. You would think that a corporate entity, Clear Channel, would have wanted to have a morning Howard Stern, a midday Howard Stern, and a night Howard Stern, so that people will listen all day long. I've never understood why they didn't want to build personalities and then syndicate them, especially when they bought up everything.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Never made sense to me.
Well, the guys who were already in the game and already had made a name for themselves, they weren't going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. But they certainly didn't want any new ones for whatever reason.
Yeah, they didn't want anybody to. I mean, has there been a new? Who's the last one? Who's the new personality radio?
I don't know. Simon Cowell?
Is he radio?
Well, he did his radio shows.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do shock jock radio or anything, but as far as a syndicated personality, in the modern times, that's about the only one I can think of.
I can't think of anybody. Truthfully, Trunk.
Yeah.
He's been syndicated.
Yeah, but he's been around a while.
Yeah, true. He has been around a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't come along since. I mean, Trunk started radio, in the 80s, right?
That's true, yeah. Is Rover the last?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's in 2 markets or something now.
Yeah,
3.
big deal.
He stinks.
Yeah. So, no, of course not.
Yeah. Well, I guess there hasn't been. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, personality means money.
Yeah. And then they wonder why it's a dead medium and nobody listens to it anymore.
Well, they tried to maximize the commercial value of it rather than the quality of the programming.
Right.
Because it was a built-in audience. Every car in the nation, in the world, has a radio in it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a built-in market.
Right.
But then again, with technology and podcasting and, Bluetoothing and, all this other stuff, then it's just like, well, there are other alternatives.
Yeah. I can't even fathom a person that has a smartphone that listens to commercial radio. A person is driving a 2015 on up car, has Bluetooth, and has a smartphone, and gets into their car and tunes into whatever, Bob and Tom in the morning or something. I can't fathom. How would you do? Why would you do that?
Yeah. Well, my last car was a 2006 Monte Carlo, and I even Bluetooth that shit. It had a auxiliary port jack in it, and I bought a little Bluetooth transceiver thing that you could plug right into that, and I was Bluetoothing my iPhone right to it.
Yeah.
So we're talking, we're talking a car that's 14, 15 years old, and I was Bluetoothing to that thing.
I mean, dude, is not the first thing that you do when you get in your car is connect your phone?
My phone automatically connects.
But you don't even start driving until you turn something on your phone,
yeah,
right?
I listen to podcasts. That's all I listen to. I don't listen to music stations or anything. I could listen to Spotify and thing if I want to.
Yeah.
But my thing is podcasts. When I'm driving, I listen to podcasts.
Yeah. What I'm saying, though, is it's now we're in the old days. In the old days, you'd get in your car, you'd turn it on, you'd dick around with the radio for a little bit till you found whatever you wanted to listen to. Might switch a station or two or something till you found the right song or the right talk show or whatever it was. Then you'd throw it in reverse and pull out of your driveway. That was the old days.
Yeah.
In today's world, it's, at least for me, and I think for you too, it's turn on the car, connect to Bluetooth, start the podcast or the music that I'm going to listen to, and then start driving down the street.
That's it.
Yeah. Have to. Then you get dorky like me and you reprogram your entire phone so that you can use vocal commands. Hi, Bixby, play this podcast. It turned on.
Yeah, well, that's what I do. I mean, I have not used the tuner on my car. My car is like just under 2 years old, and I have not used the tuner on it in, over a year.
Yeah.
Ever since the free Sirius XM ran out on it a year ago.
Right.
I haven't touched the radio dial since.
Well, dude, it's even like I do listen to a little bit of sports talk, like local sports talk here. 92.3 is now a sports talk station. And I listen to some of the sports talk. But even with the sports talk, I've set up podcasts to the sports talk shows that I listen to so that I don't have to hear the callers or the commercials anymore.
Right.
I don't want to hear the commercials, and I certainly don't want to hear the dumb callers.
Well, why would you?
So now it's even with that, it's just, hey, phone, play this, and I literally, I'm driving. The only adjustments that I do at all is on my steering wheel. I turn the volume down so that I can say, hey, to wake up my phone, and the phone hears me so that it'll play the next podcast. I'm a dork. I know it.
Well, whatever. Whatever form of entertainment works for you, Yeah,
I mean, I just tell me if you've done this. Have you been rolling down the street and your podcast ends and you just don't, because you don't want to use your hands to fuck with your phone, you ride in silence rather than turn the radio on?
No, typically I just pop my phone back on and just scroll through something real quick and hit play.
I definitely, depends on where I am. I mean, normally I would do that too, but like if I'm in the mountains or something or on a windy road that I don't want to, stop paying attention with or whatever, I will just sit there and ride in silence before I'll just push the button to go to regular radio.
Right.
I want nothing to do with regular radio. I can't even imagine. I can't, like, I mean, you're from Cleveland. You'll get this. You remember the Mike Trivisano show?
I do. I used to listen to it. He used to come on at like 4 o'clock.
That is the most commercialized show maybe on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Every 5 minutes, there's another block of commercials. Like, I mean, seriously, there's like 8 commercial blocks per hour. It's ridiculous how many commercials. And then when they're not doing commercials, they're doing traffic or whatever, weather. You know, it's difficult to listen to. Can you imagine, now that you've been spoiled with podcasts and stuff, to go in like a week listening to the Mike Trivisano show on your drive home?
I couldn't do it now.
Oh, dude, you would probably crash your car into a homeless person or something.
I could be. That would be the new Motley Crue album, Radio to Crash Your Car To.
Exactly. I don't think I could do it now. I don't think I could. I think I'd get to that first set of commercials and I'd be like, fuck this.
Right.
You know, it's so brutal. Who's still listening to it? If anybody still listens to commercial radio regularly, please call in. Please. And I don't even want to fuck with you. I just want to know why. And if it's that you don't have a smartphone or something, that's fine. I'm just curious what would make people not listen to
anything else,
their own taste.
Yeah,
that's really what it comes down to, is podcasts or Pandora.
Well, the thing is that if you're a music fan, if you just like music, you don't like talk, or you don't like shows per se, and you just like music, and you have a newer vehicle again. And there would be no reason why you shouldn't have a subscription to, say, like a Spotify.
Yeah.
And just listen to your Spotify in your car.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. It costs nothing. I mean, what does Spotify cost? $8 a month? $10 a month?
It's really cheap. It's like $100, I don't know, $10 a month. It's like $120 a year.
Yeah. I mean, shit. We all pay that just on 6 packs of beer.
Easily.
So I don't get the thing that gets me, though, is you don't even need Spotify. It could just be free. You could go free Pandora. Yeah, you get a commercial every now and again, but for the most part, you're listening to music that you want to listen to, based on your taste. And if you like podcasts, they're all free. Most of them are free. You can listen to podcasts for free that are within the style that you want to hear, whether it's sports or wrestling or music or news or movies or, just about everything has a podcast for it anymore. It's crazy. I don't understand why you would just listen to randomly hear Mike Trivisano talk about the fucking spaghetti pasta he had at the fucking Garden Hilton Inn. Why would you listen to that shit?
Yeah. Well, the last driving job I had, before I, stopped driving a truck, I stopped driving a truck at the very, very end of 2002.
Right.
So it's been 17 years since I drove a truck last. Mm-hmm. And my day started out listening to Howard Stern.
Sure.
And my day started at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's when I got in the truck and started driving. Mm-hmm. And that's about the same time Howard Stern came on.
Right.
So my day started with Howard Stern, and that would take me through about 4.5 hours.
Right.
And then I would listen to, at the time, I would listen to Glenn Beck for about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would listen to Rush Limbaugh.
Right.
And then I would listen to, who was that? Who would I listen to? I would listen to, I think it was Mitch Albom out of Detroit.
Okay.
And then I would listen to that until that signal ran out, and then Mike Trivisano would come in, and that would end my day.
No Molly Meldrum?
No.
Oh, just checking.
But that's how my day went. I had basically talk radio on from the time that I started my shift until the time I ended my day at like 6 o'clock at night. It was about a 12-hour day.
Sure.
So that I listened to 12 hours worth of radio, and it was all basically a show, and not music, but just shows.
Sure. When I was at this is what a dork I was. When I was at the insurance company that I worked at, Bristol West. I was in a cubicle, and I bought a Sirius. What was that thing called? Remember they had the first portable Sirius?
Yeah.
I bought it, but it couldn't pick up anything because where I worked had computers. So I bought a dock, and I bought like an extra antenna, and I literally ran an antenna between the cubicles so my bosses wouldn't see it. I put it up next to the window.
Yeah, the southern facing window or whatever.
Yeah, it was just the only window that was near where I could get. And I put it near the window, and I was wearing like a headset, like for taking phone calls, and then on the other side, I had another headset that was only one ear, and I would do almost the same thing that you're saying. I would listen to O&A, like from the time I got in the car. I'd get in the car about 7 o'clock, and I would drive in. So it's like a half-hour drive or whatever, 7 to 7:30. My day would start at 7:30. I would listen to O&A from 7 o'clock till it ended at roughly 11, and then Ron and Fez started at noon. They would go till 3, and then the hour and a half that I missed of O&A would play
on the replay.
And then by the time they were done, it was time for me to go home.
Right.
So that was what I did every single day, was listen to. I'd be working my job, but I'd have headphones in, on one ear, and another my call headset in the other ear, and I would just listen to O&A and Ron and Fez all day long. That was my day. I loved it. It was easy.
Well, speaking of Ron and Fez,
yeah,
Ron Bennington, very. He was definitely he is definitely a radio genius.
Oh yeah,
very entertaining guy. The Fez guy, I just could not get into him at all. I mean, he was just way too gay for me.
Gay and whiny and
I liked Ron Bennington. I liked his interviews. I liked the stuff that he did. But boy, that Fez guy, I just could not take it. I would try to listen to it because I know you always say, "Oh, Ron and Fez really funny," and I would listen to it, and I was just like, man, I can't take this guy.
I was a big fan of Ron and Fez.
I know you were, and I tried to be a fan too, but I just did not resonate with me.
Well, the one that surprises me, I was a big fan of. After Fez went crazy and stopped talking all the time, and then they had Eastside Dave that came in on the show.
Right.
I loved when it was Ron and Eastside Dave. I mean, they still called it the Ron and Fez show, but it was basically Ron and Eastside Dave. And they would have Dave be in the Midnight Rider and all those other goofy characters that he would do.
Right.
I loved it. I couldn't get enough of Ron. I mean, you remember, I was a huge fan. And now Eastside Dave has his own show on Kumia's network.
Mm-hmm.
Might be the most unwatchable thing in the history of television.
It's all about the chemistry, man. If the chemistry isn't right, the guy could be the greatest guy in the world, but if he can't carry it alone, it really is chemistry.
Eastside Dave is a good sidekick, but he can't pull a show. Dude, in a lot of ways, I say that's very similar to me. I think I'm a good sidekick, but I think I'm terrible leading.
Mm-hmm.
I never think I do well. Whenever I lead, like on an off show or whatever, I always think that sucks because I'm not comfortable leading and controlling, ruddering the ship, because my own personal life isn't ruddered very well. I mean, I'm being honest here.
You like to be the untethered guy who just kind of like lets things loose, and you don't have to pay attention to the details.
Right. But you can't be that as the lead.
No, as the lead, you have to pay attention to the details. I mean, I'm like always looking at the clock. I'm looking at the recording. People don't even realize what kind of a setup I have here.
I know.
In front of me. What I'm looking for. In fact, since people do look at this on a video,
yeah,
I'm going to let them see what I see.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm going to...
It's TV exclusive.
Exactly. So I'm going to take this camera down, and I'm going to let people see the CMS studio from my viewpoint.
All right.
All right. Let's see here. I'm trying to see what I'm looking at here camera-wise.
I'm looking at you.
All right. All right, here we go. I see myself up in the corner. All right. So this is what I'm working with.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in. All right. There's an effects rack right there.
Okay.
But now I've got the whole mixing board here. Now, if you look, I got to watch these levels. You see those levels bouncing.
Right.
See, when you talk and my talk, our levels are almost identical.
It's dirt talk.
See what I mean? So yep. I'm watching the levels. I gotta make sure that the sliders, the faders are all where they're supposed to be. All of these adjustments are where they're supposed to be. Then I'm watching a screen up here, which is where I control the music. I control, the bumpers, all that other stuff. And then I'm watching you.
There I am. Hey.
So I'm watching everything that goes on, and here's a little peek at the CMS studio.
Right.
Just to see what I'm looking at. Then we got the old ring light.
Right.
So I've got to make sure everything is working while Chris is over there fucking off.
Yeah, while I'm texting and answering shit in the chat room and everything else.
So this is the control board here. Right. Everything is being controlled by me.
Yeah. Hey, there I am.
And so all Chris has to do, and there's my mascot, the clapping monkey. So that's what I do. For those of you who are on CMS TV, you got to see a little visual.
Wow, an exclusive.
Exactly. So let me get this realigned.
All right, there.
About right there.
A little over. There you go. Right there.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay. So there you are. So that's what I'm dealing with while Chris has mindless banter going on his end.
Exactly. While I'm texting and answering questions in the chat room and looking at porn and everything else.
Yeah. So if you are watching CMS TV or you watch this segment on CMS TV, you'll get to see all that.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's a lot more going on here than what meets the eye.
Yeah. To quote Testament.
Exactly.
More meets the eye.
Exactly. Well, since we're talking about Testament, since you brought that up, it's interesting segue here.
All right.
Our good friend Ozzy Ace.
Yes.
He sent me an email. And he said, "Did you get the letter I sent you?"
Letter?
He sent me a letter. And I was just like, okay. I'm assuming he sent it to the CMS post office box.
Okay.
So I took a ride over there today to check the P.O. box. I go over there about once a month, and because I don't get a lot of shit in there, so I only go over there about once a month.
Okay.
So anyway, sure as shit, there is an envelope from our good friend Ozzy Ace.
There it is.
So I'm just like, okay, what's in the envelope?
All right.
So I opened it up, and it says, "Neeley would love to know how far from the truth is this. Cheers, Ozzy Ace." So I'm looking at this. It's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, what is that?
Well, it's wrapped up like he does. He wraps his shit up extremely well. Okay. So I opened her up, pull it up, pull this thing out. He sends me over this comic book.
The Testament comic book?
It's a Testament comic book.
All right.
I don't know where this came from or where he got it from, but this, can you see this?
I see it, yeah.
All right, but it is a comic book of Testament. Now, I have not read this. I just got it today.
All right. What the fuck? What kind of goofy shit is this?
It looks like some kind of a superhero style comic book made out of the characters in Testament, the band.
Chuck Billy must have been hitting his fucking Big Chief pipe a little hard. Comic book.
Testament comic book.
No kidding.
So I guess I'm going to have to read the story to see what Ozzy wants to know, how close to reality this is.
You know what? Hang on to that, and we'll do it. We'll do it as one segment with the Metallica children's book.
Sure, why not?
We'll do that for the CMS TV thing.
Yeah. So Testament forever, man.
Yeah, man. Testament comic book.
So he sent this to me from Australia.
All right. Wow.
Quite an adventure.
Want my eBay account so you can put it? I mean, do you plan on keeping it?
So, thank you, Ozzy Ace, again for the unique gift.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't think that I've ever heard that there was a Testament comic book out, but I have it. I have it right here.
There you go. It's more than meets the eye.
Exactly.
Book. That's funny.
So Ozzy, he's quite a character.
Oh, yeah.
And he loves the show. That's all I can tell you.
That's good.